Welcome to the deep dive. We're tackling a really crucial topic today, how our cities, places most of us call home, are impacting the planet.
hmm
We've got a fascinating set of sources to unpack. They range from very concrete data-backed solutions to some really big picture ecological thinking.
Right.
Our mission is basically to pull out the most compelling insights and connect them in a way that gives you a clear understanding of the challenges
Yeah, and maybe more
and
importantly.
the exciting possibilities, exactly.
So we're looking at Project Drawdown's analysis of specific climate solutions, things like alternative cement, um, better infrastructure for bikes, retrofitting our existing buildings.
Stuff we see around us.
Totally. Green and cool roofs,
Mm.
energy-efficient LED lighting, and even those, water-saving low-flow fixtures. These are all about practical, measurable ways to cut carbon emissions.
And then adding a kind of deeper layer, we have this lecture script. It really encourages us to think about cities from an ecological standpoint.
Yeah, challenges that whole idea that cities are just bad for the environment.
Right. And explores how they could actually become, well, key to a sustainable future. So for you, the listener, we want to synthesize these ideas, highlight the surprising connections,
Hmm.
and leave you feeling informed and maybe even a little inspired about what's possible.
Okay, so let's dive right into the heart of the matter then. The lecture script, it paints a pretty stark picture at first. Cities as major contributors to our environmental problems.
Yeah, it lays it out clearly.
We're talking habitat loss as we build the huge amounts of greenhouse gases released from our industries, transport,
Sheer
buildings,
volume of waste we generate.
waste, exactly,
Mm.
and the immense ecological footprint. Cities drawing resources from way beyond their actual borders.
It's a massive scale, isn't it? The script points out that over 60% of the human race now lives in cities,
And it's only going up.
constantly growing. It really underscores the urgency of understanding this urban impact.
And what's fascinating here in the lecture script is the emphasis on landscape change, particularly the role of soil.
Soil. Yeah, we often overlook it.
We totally do.
Yeah.
But healthy soil is like this powerhouse for capturing CO2, methane, nitrogen right out of the atmosphere. It's a natural climate solution literally beneath our feet.
Right. It even mentions the Kiss the Ground documentary
Mm-hmm.
and that 4 per thousand initiative, which, I mean, the idea is incredible. Increasing the carbon in our soils by just a tiny bit each year could significantly cut atmospheric CO2.
It's about recognizing the massive carbon storing power of this, living ecosystem.
But here's the rub, as they say.
Yeah, here's the problem. The expansion of cities, all that paving paradise,
Huh?
it's drastically reduced the amount of land available for this crucial soil ecology.
Hmm.
We've essentially just swapped carbon sinks for concrete and asphalt.
Okay, but then the perspective shifts.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Definitely. The lecture script introduces the idea of urban ecology. It's like the possibility of flipping the script.
Right. Transforming our cities from these ecological liabilities.
Genuine environmental assets.
Yeah.
And one of the really thought-provoking concepts here is this idea of lifting of the lithosphere.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Well, think of it like this. The ground isn't really gone in a city. It's just been elevated into our buildings, our infrastructure.
Ah, okay, so the space is still there, just higher up.
Kind of. And the exciting potential lies in soiling over these human-made surfaces, basically creating new spots for urban greening, even farming, in places you wouldn't expect.
So the city has this hidden potential just waiting. And the script points out we already have infrastructure, right?
Exactly. Water pipes, systems to capture rainwater, even condensation from air conditioners.
Wow.
All stuff that could be repurposed to support urban agriculture and greening efforts.
It makes so much sense.
And what's compelling is how buildings themselves can become more ecologically productive
How so?
by using vertical space for vegetation, especially on walls that get a lot of sun.
South-facing walls, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We can actually increase the arable land area within a city. The examples of green buildings in Madrid, they really showcase this kind of thing beautifully.
That's amazing. Okay, so this idea of making the most of our existing urban fabric, that leads us right into some of those specific solutions from Project Drawdown, like green and cool roofs.
Perfect transition, yeah. Green roofs, with their layers of soil and plants, they act like natural insulation.
So less need for heating and cooling inside.
Precisely. And cool roofs, with their reflective surfaces, they just bounce sunlight away, stopping buildings from soaking up so much heat.
And the potential impact is huge, right? Drawdown estimates, what was it, 45 to 69 billion square meters of efficient roofing by 2050.
Yeah, it's massive. And the key insight here is that just by rethinking our rooftops, we could cut greenhouse gas emissions significantly, somewhere between 0.53 and 0.99 gigatons of CO2 equivalent. And
Wow.
beyond the energy savings, green roofs have these great co-benefits, like managing stormwater runoff
Oh, yeah, that's a big one in cities.
and even creating little habitats for wildlife. Cool roofs are really good at fighting the urban heat island effect, just making cities cooler and more livable.
It's like getting multiple wins from one solution. Okay, now let's talk about building retrofitting. This seems absolutely essential, especially when you think that most buildings that'll be around in 2030.
Already here.
Exactly.
Already built.
Precisely. Retrofitting is all about upgrading these existing buildings, better insulation, more efficient HVAC systems, better lighting.
Right.
Now, drawdown accounts for the impact of these things in its specific solutions, like LEDs, to avoid double counting.
Okay, got it.
But the main takeaway is just how massive and immediate the opportunity is to improve the energy efficiency of the buildings we already have.
It's about making our current infrastructure way less energy hungry. And speaking of energy efficiency, LED lighting, I mean, that's everywhere now, and for good reason.
Absolutely. LEDs are just so much more efficient than the old incandescent or even fluorescent bulbs. They turn most energy into light, not heat.
Huge difference. And drawdown projects that switching over to LEDs in homes and businesses could avoid. Get this. 14.45 to 15.69 gigatons of CO2 equivalent emissions by 2050.
Whoa, that is a staggering number. That's like the annual emissions of several big countries combined.
It's huge. And it's a relatively simple switch. Plus, you get the co-benefits, right? Less reliance on fossil fuels for electricity means less air pollution.
Better public health.
Exactly. And then there's the potential for off-grid solar LEDs in developing regions, which is just a game changer for clean energy access.
Okay, one more from drawdown. Low-flow fixtures, shower heads, taps. Seems small, maybe?
It might seem small, but reducing water use has this significant knock-on effect on energy.
Because you need energy to heat the water, right?
Exactly. So less water used means less energy needed for heating. Drawdown estimates this could cut emissions by 0.93 to 1.52 gigatons of CO2 equivalent by 2050.
The surprising thing there is just how linked our water and energy systems are.
Totally interconnected. And you save money on utility bills long term, plus you're conserving precious fresh water. It makes low-flow fixtures a really compelling and easy win.
Okay, so we have these individual practical solutions from drawdown, and then the lecture script really pushes us to think about how they all work together to create this more holistic, sustainable city, this integrated urban ecology idea.
Yes, and this is where the vision gets really transformative. The lecture script mentions Dr. Dixon Despommiers' vertical farm concept.
Right, the multi-story farms inside buildings.
Yeah, taking that cities as solutions idea even further. Imagining these farms using existing water systems, maybe even waste streams, to grow food right in the city.
And I was really struck by the mention of Friedensreich Hundertwasser's tree tenant project.
Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it?
It's such a cool real-world example, integrating trees right into buildings growing out of windows, on balconies.
And the script reminds us of all the amazing things trees do in cities. Oxygen, better air, cooler climate, less noise.
And just making the place nicer to be in. Beauty.
Totally. It's such a powerful contrast to the, often ecologically sterile concrete jungles we've built. It even makes you question things like the classic suburban lawn.
Oh, yeah. All the water, the chemicals.
Exactly. Is that really the best use of that space, ecologically speaking?
Good question. Now, the lecture script also brings in this interesting angle from Ed Glazer's Triumph of the City.
Right, highlighting the incredible concentration of different kinds of capital in cities.
Financial capital, intellectual, social, cultural, all that stuff back together.
But what's really insightful, I think, is the argument that the crucial missing piece in that urban equation is living capital or natural capital.
Meaning like thriving nature within the city itself.
Exactly. The absence of that, the lack of thriving natural systems, is a big reason why cities can feel unsustainable and honestly just less pleasant to live in.
That makes me think of Karl Marx, actually, and his idea of the metabolic rift.
Explain that a bit.
Well, that disconnect between the city and the countryside Resources are pulled into the city from nature.
Right.
But the waste, the ecological damage, it isn't properly returned or regenerated. It's a broken cycle.
Okay, yeah, I see
Okay.
that. But the hopeful message here, tying it all together, is that if cities can actively work to regenerate that living capital,
Mm.
if we can intentionally bring nature back in,
Mm.
then they have the potential to become centers of a true circular economy, hubs for carbon drawdown.
So cities where waste becomes a resource.
Yeah, and the urban environment itself actively helps sequester carbon and improves ecological health.
It really does flip the traditional view of cities completely on its head.
And that idea you mentioned earlier, combining super efficient LEDs with urban agriculture, even on the shady sides of buildings,
Yeah.
making cities incredibly productive ecosystems. It's a powerful vision.
So, okay, let's try and pull this together. When we look at all these pieces, the sources we've examined today, they present this kind of dual narrative.
Yeah, definitely. On one hand, our cities, as they are now, are significant drivers of climate change. Landscape alteration, resource consumption.
Yeah, the problems are clear. But on the other hand,
These very same dense areas have this immense, largely untapped potential to become key solutions.
right, by embracing innovative approaches, building design, infrastructure, weaving nature back in, we can actually transform our cities into like engines of ecological regeneration.
So think about the implications.
Hmm.
What if we started seeing every urban surface differently? Roofs, walls, even parking lots.
As potential spaces for planting things that soak up carbon or for energy-saving tech.
Exactly. What small changes could you, listening now, imagine in your own community or even just on your own building that align with these ideas?
And maybe the biggest shift is just in our mindset, you know? What happens when we stop seeing cities just as concrete jungles and start seeing them as dynamic, living ecosystems?
Ecosystems with incredible potential to help heal the planet. It really opens up a whole new world of possibilities. And look, we've really only scratched the surface here today. It's a huge topic.
For sure.
If you're interested in learning more, we'd absolutely recommend exploring Project Drawdown's website. They have tons of detail on these solutions and many others.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
And check out the work of thinkers like Dixon Despommier and Friedensreich Hundertwasser for more kind of inspiring visions on the future of urban ecology.
Lots to think about, and hopefully lots of potential for positive change right where most of us live.